Welcome to the Price of Admission. Today we've got Joe Taylor, a seasoned leader, especially in the football coaching space. Now a manager at Amazon, and you'll have to tell us how that's treating you. Based in Las Vegas, it's a dangerous place for me, brother. You and Donald Pearson, high amounts of discipline, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So Joe's roots from Montrose,
Virginia. Yes, sir.
He was everything in high school. Lots of records set there. Was a Marine, logistics guy,
Yes,
like
sir.
myself. Platoon commander, did an advisor tour with the Afghan police, so the AUP.
Yes, sir.
I did a similar thing, but it was with the Army, and there's that cultural, I'm from this area, you're from that area, type of thing. And those two crews, while they tried to work together, always did butt heads a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Leadership instructor and football coach in 3 different organizations: Navy Sprint, post Sprint head coach, and your old high school, Washington and Lehigh School.
Yes, sir.
Transitioned from coaching to Amazon. Definitely a guy dedicated to others, and that pops in the memories for sure. Growing and coaching not only others, but himself as well. So there's the intro, man. And then got to hit some memories. First
All
one,
right.
Joey Taylor, one of the guys in that QB film room with you. When you were in that room, because you played both sides.
Yeah. So Joey was actually, when I switched over to defense, is when I got connected with him, Keitrick, and Drexel. Well, mostly, because we were in the DB room together.
Yeah. Good stuff. What he said, there's so much I could say about Joe. Truly one of my favorite people, hands down. He and I went to NAPS together. We had an instant bond. Ironically enough, we have the exact same name too. If I had to talk about the values that stood out about him, I point out how genuine he is. Theme. His energy doesn't change regardless of the room he's in. It allows him to connect with literally anybody. Always joking, trying to go over your head with sarcasm or innuendo. Next thing I'd mention is, you have a curious, questioning mindset. He doesn't just accept something as true. He seeks to understand, loves to engage in a conversation with people with different views than him. Such a powerful and rare quality this day and age, to be able to disagree respectfully. So, ShamWow. Have hard conversations with empathy, and even have the ability to change your point of view based off of new knowledge. Another ShamWow. It's my dog Joe all day. Can't talk about him without mentioning his passion for the game of football and youth. This guy would still be coaching high school football if it paid enough to support a family. I visited him this past November. We talked about this. He moved back to his hometown after getting out of the Marines to lead the high school athletics department. Didn't even feel like a job to him. He was born to do it. Last thing I don't want to forget is how loving and present he is with his family. I remember when he and Mel started dating, and within a month I could see them on this exact path. Such a good father of his 4 kids. He built an amazing family. As a father and husband myself, I have to say I'm inspired by the love he pours into his family. Sorry to get so sappy, but it's just a fact, my man. So
that's funny. That is funny.
There's your Joey Taylor.
Yeah, that's my guy, man.
Next one's Drex, and I'm gonna play his audio.
Okay.
Your video's kind of lagging, and that's okay. Once we're done, it'll all come together.
Okay.
But if you don't hear this, let me know. Okay?
Okay.
Starting it now. Here we go.
Hey, Tony. Glad you're interviewing my man, Joe Taylor.
That's good.
That should be an awesome interview. A little bit about Joe and going back to his value to the team. If you remember, Joe started out as a traveling quarterback freshman year, which I think is a hard thing to do in the Navy offense. And then, maybe he can tell you his story, but ends up switching positions several times, went over to the defensive side. So we spent some time together. He was already a best friend. We did the naps together. Then he goes back. Then he's like scout team offense. Maybe my junior, senior, I can't remember the exact details. Then I think he goes back to the offensive side. And so, my man has after kind of being a high school superstar in his area, Montrose, Virginia, and then kind of experiencing all that.
Yeah.
That could be, I think, tough for any 18 to 21-year-old. But to handle that with the grace that he did, I think speaks to his character, which now, after having gone through that, sets him apart as kind of a football strategist, which I think is his calling. And he's, taking steps to kind of pursue that. He's already had a couple head coaching jobs, and and I think that will be back in his future shortly. If I know him, I know the way that this is such a calling on his life. So I think his and then the way he coached his team at his old alma mater, high school, all of that kind of just speaks to who Joe Taylor is. I still keep in contact with Joe now, which is how I kind of know most of this stuff. To sum up the character attributes, I think one, the first thing that comes to mind is Joe is a people person, maybe to the nth degree. He has the ability. I mean, I remember him. We were at NAC, and we would all be going. I was in 2-2. He was in 2-1, and we would meet in the center for the the brushing your teeth and stuff early in the morning. And he's up dancing and laughing, and I'm mad because I'm up, and he's like trying to make me feel better, which makes me more mad. But then it doesn't, then it makes me happy. That's just the type of guy he is. He's a person, interpersonal relationship. I would say guru. He just studies people, wants to make people perform at their best, wants people to thrive around him, wants people to be happy. And I think that's who he is. I think he's a father of 4 now, but he is a leader. I think the way he's bold in some of the things that he does in his own individual life, but also in the teams that he leads. Hopefully you can ask him some questions about that. But it comes better from him. But he's willing to take risks in his leadership in the ways that uplift people. And I think that's just the core about Joe, is that he's it's all about the people. And
got a question
all
about that, by the way.
Getting what's best for others. He's so bold in his leadership that he wears you'll have to ask him, like toeless shoes, sandals, or whatever he calls them, earth runners. My man out here, going back to his roots and rocking these shoeless or toeless sandals, man, out in public, man, with no shame. So like I said, with bold leadership, man, and then the way he did his team. Leadership, personality, character, interpersonal relationship. I think those are the big things. And let me give you one more. A student. I know this is long, sorry, but a student of those things. So he's a student of football. He still studies, quarterbacking and strategy and arm position and more stuff than I know about. But he's still a student of leadership and a student of being a father. And so he's always trying to get better, which is one of the most exciting things about him. He's humble about it, and he'll learn from anyone, at any moment it may not even like you, but if you have a word for him, he'll listen to you, and he's going to try to kind of bring you in to the team and hear what you got to say, work through his own emotions. If it's frustrating him, he's going to, he will guarantee to take the time to do that, which is, I think, speaks volumes of a man these days who has the courage to work through his own emotions and express his emotions and things like that. So courage, leadership, character on all fronts, student, and humility. All right. Hope you have a great conversation.
Man, such kind words, man.
Yeah.
Such kind words.
It's
That's
good
cool.
stuff. But, a lot of the things that he said, the other two said as well. So that's fun. Drex was fortunate enough to get him on here too. Episode 47 guest titled A Healthy Devotion. So he's actually he started a podcast of his own with his wife. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. I need to get him back on here again after he started that and kind of talk through like how that's been working. So it's fun for me. So all right. Last one. Keep Buff.
Oh,
Go
man.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're good, brother.
Okay. Keetrick Buff, an episode 56 guest titled The Callous. To sum it up, a good dude. One of the most consistent guys I know, being a light in any environment. Again, a light that shines no matter what the environment or the culture he's in. He brings people together. Great friend to have. Funny story. Joe and I coached at Naps after graduation together, and we'd take turns getting each other to the airport when needed, driving back and forth. There was this one time when he gave me a call. After you got off the phone or after you got off the airplane, he was going to pick you up in Providence, Rhode Island, and you were kind of upset, which was kind of different. You were talking to somebody, reporting some sort of incident. It turns out that being a light and being able to connect well interpersonally with some folks had an effect on someone in the previous airport that you were maybe checking in with, some sort of agent.
Yeah. Okay.
Turns out that good connection with that agent, you get a text from the guy, I guess, maybe when you got off the plane, and he was just checking in on you.
Yeah, I got a voicemail. I had 2 voicemails from the guy that worked at Delta. Yeah, I remember that.
Keisha said he started calling you Sugar Joe.
Yeah, that's what he still calls me that now. He still calls me. Yeah, man, that was funny. If I'd known what I know now, I'd have free flights from Delta. But yeah, man, this guy I guess he got my phone number from somewhere and called and left a voicemail. Basically, like, hey, I saw you, whatever. And then the second one was like, I think he realized like what he did wasn't right and called back and said, oh my God, like, please don't report me and get me fired, blah, blah, blah. And I let it go, it is what it is. But yeah, Keetrick, he never lets me forget that story for sure.
Fun times.
Yeah, man.
Last one, he said, all seriousness, Joe just makes you feel welcome. And, definitely a theme across all the memories I see. So that's it. Let's hear the Joe Taylor story from Joe Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from a small town. My high school probably, when I went back to coach, we had like 400 and some kids in the school, and it was probably a little smaller when I went there. So just a small town mentality, man. Like we say hi to everybody we walk past. We see people that all the time in Walmart and in the grocery store, and so that kind of environment is what I was raised in, and so I carried that wherever I went. And thankfully, life has kind of afforded me the opportunity to go quite a few different places. But I was all set actually to go to VMI, and my high school coach said, Virginia Military Institute. My coach said, hey, if you're going to go to a military school, let's check out the Naval Academy. So we sent film back in the days where you had to actually hook up the dub, the cassette, not cassette, VHS. Yeah. So we had the two screens going. Highlight tapes, labeling them, sending them out to like 30, 40 different colleges because it's a small town. Nobody travels there. There's no there's no like huddle and all of that stuff back then. So we sent up some film, and I think like a week or two later, Coach Johnson's like, "Yeah, come up for a visit," and that was pretty much it, man. So went to Navy. I had a phenomenal career in high school, a bunch of good teams. We won the state championship my sophomore year, Player of the Year in Virginia my sophomore year. Came back, had a really solid junior year. Senior year, not a great one for the team wise, but still able to perform well enough to go to Navy. And then like I think was it Drexel's story, kind of had that up and down career at Navy. Started off as a quarterback, moved to safety. I think my sophomore year, junior year, outside linebacker, and then back to quarterback. And what a lot of people don't know is right before I got hurt my senior year. I think the week before, Coach Jasper called me in his office and was like, "Hey, man, you're starting to play really well. We get on the red zone or the goal line, 28 solid rebels. What we're gonna call like you're the bigger quarterback. We might start to swap you in." I'm like, "Cool, like let's go." I've withstood all of that kind of up and down. It's like my time to get in there and do my thing. And I think I got hurt like the week later, end of the season, man, like end of my career.
Yeah.
But it was tough, but man, just the love and support from all the guys on the team, coaches, everything really kind of helped push through. Friends that weren't football players, so just kind of that whole total village kind of helped me stay in there,
On the ups and downs, that's a lot of like what I try and pry into here is what your ups and downs, low points, whatever. How'd you get out of that? Like, how'd you rebound during that time?
Yeah, I think honestly at that time, and I'm pretty transparent about this, I think faith, super was, going to Mariners, the McKinneys were super supportive, friends were super supportive, and it was definitely tough. I would not say like it was easy. It was really tough coming from where I played a lot, and really kind of had some success to go have that up and down. Yeah, it was pretty tough, but I think just the support and I mean, honestly, I'm not a quitter, so I'm gonna stick it out,
Yeah.
and keep grinding, and see where it takes me. And I had no idea, I always at some point knew I wanted to get into coaching, but I had no idea at the time kind of what was being orchestrated for me, to play quarterback, to play safety, to play outside linebacker, to go back to quarterback, to play scout team and all the different offenses that we were playing against, So I wasn't just learning triple option. Like I'm looking at these scout cards like, oh, okay, I can see how this goes together. Like I can, and so I'm learning so much football at this time. And, I didn't know kind of what it was setting me up for. But again, like if I'm doing something, I'm going to try to do my best. I'm going to learn these plays. I'm going to learn this and do that. I'm going to learn outside backer. I'm going to learn. And I learned all of this football. And I think also exposed to different coaching styles. Buddy Green, I played for him for, he was defensive coordinator. Man, he was an amazing coach. Coach Jones, like all these guys were good coaches. And because I was switching positions, I was able to, play under, but not only play under, observe and learn from all of these different positional coaches. And so it was just, like at the time I didn't know it, but I just said, I'm not a quitter. I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to learn as much as I can. And, certainly helped out for later in my life.
Wow. I
Yes,
think there's another episode where I threw this analogy out here, but there's like, there's this little graphic with two like pinball, skee ball type of things that go down. One's like a straight path down the ramp to a finish line. The other one's the ups and downs. And the one with the ups and downs gets there faster. So that's another, analogy, I guess, but that's another reason why I like to explore that the ups and downs, because it seems like the rebound with that I'm not a quitter usually turns out pretty good. So.
Yeah, man. It's so did the career at Navy. It's funny, I majored in mechanical engineering. Trying to be a mechanical engineer and a football player at the same time was very tough. So eventually went to just general engineering. Did a bunch of classes with Sander Gossard. Man, what an awesome dude.
Yeah, we had him on here too.
Yeah, we had a really good time, man. We just had a lot of classes together and grew really close over the years. But graduated there, and because I hurt my knee my senior year, went to Naps to coach. And I don't know if you remember, but when I hurt myself, I actually stayed around and tried to start. I started coaching then, so that's how I got close to like Ricky Dobbs and Chris Proctor and some of those guys. Because at that time, once I got hurt, I was already kind of like trying to mentor them. We used to do this thing called Wisdom Wednesdays. But anyway, once I got hurt, it's like, okay, I'm a coach with Coach Jasper and then help out with the JV team. So kind of fell in love with it really then. And then was afforded the opportunity to go coach at Naps, which was super cool. I think Trey Miller was one of the quarterbacks I coached. I'm pretty sure like Marcus Thomas, some of these guys that are making some noise still in the football world, I'm pretty sure those guys were in that class that Keetrick and I coached at Naps as well.
Yeah, Marcus Thomas, he's the one at UCLA now?
Yeah, UCLA. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, all those guys were they were at Naps, I think, when I coached there. So from there, TBS did the regular Marine thing, TBS, which was super cool, man. Like just a cool opportunity. At the time, like I feel like you don't really process that how awesome some of this stuff is. But looking back, and as I get older, it's like, man, we did some really cool stuff. Like not just doing cool stuff, but stretching yourself and kind of understanding what you're capable of. It was just, real cool, like self-discovery type stuff. But logistics officer, went out to CLR 17 as a motor T platoon commander. Had a really good time doing that, and just saw, I think my admin officer or something at the time, she came by and said, hey, there's this role, or I forget the technical terms, it's been a minute, but basically there's this opportunity to go join like a transition team where you're helping Afghans, like, kind of bolster their logistics and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, man, that sounds kind of cool. So I signed up for that, and it was really cool, man. Like it was a small team. And so we had to do everything. And I say that because I think typical Marine officer, you're not driving trucks, you're not manning a turret, like, you're not doing some of these things. Yeah. You said you were?
Same deal. Yeah, I was on an advisor team as well.
Yeah, so it's a really cool opportunity to actually do, not just like lead and plan and all that, but you're actually doing a lot of these things. And so again, just another really awesome opportunity. My CO, Lieutenant Colonel McCullough, he was just amazing leader, very, very awesome leader. And so I did that for a year. And kind of like, I think one of your questions was why I got out. Again, full transparency, when I got back from Afghanistan, I had just had a son, JJ. He's 13 now. Turned 13 on the 20th. But he turned a year old, and then I think the next month is when I left to go to Afghanistan for a year. And so transitioning back into being dad, being husband, was kind of tough. He had spent a year of his life without me around, really. And I came back in man, if I had advice for young Marines that go on deployment, I came back in a little stronger probably than I should have. And it, I think, created a divide a little bit between him and my relationship. And I think I took that at that time as something the Marine Corps did, and I didn't accept it as my responsibility. And I think that's when I decided, okay, the next chance I get, I'm going to get out. Cool. And I can admit, like, looking back, I probably should have taken a step back and kind of reflected on my role in that kind of division. But I kind of at the time was like, yeah, I don't want to create this stretch anymore. Now there's people that do it, and they maintain that relationship, and they're much more mature about it than I was. But looking back, it's kind of like, okay, that is why I got out though. So I actually ended up doing my Lieutenant Colonel McCullough, awesome dude. He said, well, if you're going to get out, like just stay in for a few more years because you're going to get a B billet. And he said, I think I got one that you'd be interested in. I'm like, okay, what's up? Obviously not like that, but I didn't say it like that. But so he told me about, I have a billet came through for coaching football at the Naval Academy. And I'm like, what? I'm like, is this real? I'm pinching myself like, is this real? Like, what are we talking about here? Because I'm thinking,
for Major Mari?
No.
Okay.
No, I was actually just the offensive coordinator there. So Kevon Lake was he was a major. He was the head coach. But I was thinking when I first heard that, like, I remember Marine officers doing some stuff with the football team. So I'm thinking like, like with big boy football. So I'm like
Yeah.
super excited about it. And then I think eventually I heard sprint and I was like, oh, I remember sprint. That'll be cool too. Not knowing like how cool it was going to be, man. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed coaching sprint football. It was
Nice.
it was amazing, man. Like those guys, not that, I wouldn't have had the same experience or similar with big boy football, but the sprint guys were just sponges. Man, they would like run through a brick wall if you asked them to. They were, it was just a different crew, man. And
Yeah.
I still talk to some of my sprint guys pretty regularly, actually. One of my quarterbacks, we had an amazing time together. He broke some records and stuff while there. We still text each other about football all the time if we're watching a game. Like, oh, did you see Michael Penix? Yeah. But yeah, sprint football was just amazing. So I coached. They came to me after the first season and said, "Hey, we need you to teach leadership too." I'm like, hold on, I didn't sign up for that. But
Probably a good experience.
it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal to kind of peek behind the curtain, see how they develop the classes and kind of how they decide the curriculum, how they train us to be able to deliver it. And one of the things I'm most proud about is I want to say it was either in 2015 or 16. I don't know if it was fall or spring semester, but I actually was awarded like teacher of the semester in leadership.
Nice.
And so I won't often just kind of outright say accomplishments, but I was pretty proud of that because I had never taught before, and just kind of picking that up, and I fell in love with that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So all of those things.
There's one, I'm not gonna say, well, feather in your cap, whatever, but of the teaching, of the coaching, of that passion you have for it, that's kind of continued you down that path, and Drex said maybe one day again. So.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, that's where it led me to. I was when I was time to get out, I remember playing against Post, and I saw that they had an opening, Post University up in Connecticut, and so I ended up, interviewing and getting the head coaching job there. What an incredible learning experience. We didn't win a single game.
Did you play a lot of JV teams?
We played, so the Sprint League was growing at that time, and we ended up at that level. When I went to Post, we only played other Sprint teams.
Okay, got it.
Yes, so we lost every single game, but I just learned so much about running a program. I had been an assistant coach, at NAPS and all of that, but just running a program, made lots of mistakes, learned a lot, and I got a call from my old mentor, kind of at this point best friend, my old high school coach, and he's like, "Hey, there's an opening at the high school. Like, do you want to come back home to Montrose and coach and teach?" And I'm like, when Joey came here, he said, "Man, I always remembered you saying that's what you were going to do." Well, I had that opportunity, went back home. I think I went back in 2017, and coached there, coached and taught for 3 years, man. And it was, dude, it was like, you couldn't tell me that's not what I was going to do for the rest of my life. We did some cool things, kind of implemented some really cool, I think we just called it like Eagle Night, where we did like the whole sleepover. I woke him up early. We went for a run. Like we did wrestling. We did all these like really cool things over like a 2-day period. Yeah, like over a 2-day period. And it ended with them jumping on a bus and going to see a Washington Commanders practice. And so I had my whole team in jerseys and everything. Yeah, man, it was, we were doing some really cool stuff. We had I think in my time there, between the football players, and then I was running a strength and conditioning program. I mean, we had 8 to 10 kids. A few go off and play soccer in college, I think volleyball. And then I think in my 3 years there, which won't seem like a lot for a big school, but in my 3 years, I think we ended up sending 6 or 7 kids to play college football. And I think in the previous 8 years or 10 years, there had only been one.
That's a big thing. That's fun too, especially as a coach.
Oh yeah, man.
It's the best.
Yeah, I love the college coaches coming through the school, and you get a chance to kind of show your kids off and kind of help prepare your kids for meeting college coaches and how to shake hands and look them in the eye and carry on a conversation. All the things that don't always show, when you're coaching, you're thinking you're just calling plays but it was really awesome to kind of help these kids not only learn to be better football players, but, the mission is to make them better people, from
the below the iceberg work.
Yeah, man,
right?
that was the fun stuff. Spent a lot of time with them, just a lot of effort. I would drive them all up and down the East Coast to football camps and stuff. So it was a really, really awesome time. But when COVID hit, a lot of things changed, and it's like, well, I need to seek some type of better financial stability. We had three kids at the time, and there's no secret teaching, and my wife stays at home. So teaching just didn't cut it. And in fact, to throw a bone to the brotherhood, I was actually talking with Irv Spencer, and we kind of worked through some numbers together. He's a financial advisor. Went through some numbers together and kind of decided like, oh yeah, something else needs to happen here. And so yeah, my wife had followed me to Connecticut and Virginia and all these places. So I'm like, okay, well, where do you want to go? We have to go. Where do you want to go? And she had family in Vegas, and we
Gotcha.
had come through Vegas once. And so I just said, what can I do in Vegas that involves people? Like no offense to any, the computer, all that, but like, if I'm not going to be coaching football, I still need that people connection.
Yep.
And another feather in the cap for the brotherhood. Corey Johnson was working at Amazon, and just through LinkedIn, I found him. This guy named Brett Nungesser, I think he played football at Navy for 2 or 3 years. Connected with those guys, man, and it was interview with Amazon and got the job there. What's crazy
Nice.
is
That's
I
a
didn't
hard.
even,
A lot of people don't know the Amazon interview process is pretty
dude.
rough. Or
Yeah,
not rough,
yeah.
but there's a lot of levels. There's a lot of interviews, and you got to be the right one.
Yeah. Like there's a math assessment. Yeah, I think I interviewed with a couple different people, a few different questions, and you got to have, real life experience, like stories, in a very specific format, to be considered. And so I was able to, get that job. So we moved out here, and I started off, I'm in a warehouse, distribution center, learning a new job. We moved across the country during a pandemic, going to a new city we've never lived in before, and doing a job I've never done before. And so, like I think some of the guys alluded to, I'm a curious person, So, was able to have some success there. Was promoted. I got promoted from an area manager, which is like kind of like like a platoon commander or something, to is what I would equate it to. After a few years, promoted to operations manager, so now in charge of a whole shift. But I didn't tell you this, but just recently I actually moved over to Fanatics. So I started at Fanatics like 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
What's Fanatics?
So Fanatics is distribution, but it's all like sports stuff. And so sports apparel, collectibles. It's e-commerce. So I jumped over to that. The schedule at Amazon was starting to kind of affect family time, and I will always, I will always protect family time.
Sure,
And
it's
so,
good.
yeah, man.
That's a challenge for me sometimes. I need
Yeah,
to do better there, I think.
no, it's tough, man. I think it's one of the biggest. I think you mentioned like what are some of the things we're kind of struggling with right now. It is just that, like uh, providing for the family, but also being there for the family.
Especially in job transitions, when you feel like you
Yeah,
got to catch up and, be that
yeah,
sponge to a
yep,
fault
yeah,
almost.
absolutely, man. But what I've kind of, we'll see how this works out. But what I've kind of decided I'm going to do is to be very transparent, right? And I know that's kind of the opposite of what people tell you to do, kind of in that world. But I've told my boss several times, like when I'm here, like you're not going to find somebody that's going to work harder. Like I'm going to work my butt off when I'm here. But when I go home, I'm going to be home, and
Yeah.
I don't want to be here 3, 4 hours later than I need to be. Because at the end of the day, my greatest responsibility is to my family, right? So,
So,
um,
was
so
there
we'll see
any
how
of
that works
that?
out.
Was there any of that with the whole Amazon thing that made you transition to Fanatics, or why transition to that?
Yeah, so I mean, again, I don't know if this gets me in trouble or not, but essentially at Amazon, and it's their culture, and they have every right to be this way, right? It's one of the greatest companies in the world. But I had done some night shift there twice actually, And just because the company is slowed down, growing a lot, there's not a lot of opportunities for people to promote or move to other buildings. They wanted to kind of shake things up, and they were going to put me back on night shift again.
Yeah.
Well, recently, I could give you this long, I guess not long, but my kids have played sports, and they jumped back into sports out here in Vegas. And particularly my youngest son, who's like just super passionate about playing ball, about winning, about practicing. He kind of has that drive. When I was little, where I would just kind of go out and play and do drills and stuff. I mean, he's like that, but he has not had a very fun sports experience because, I guess to be fair, there's dads that volunteer to coach who don't have a bunch of coaching experience. So they're figuring things out. But in the meantime, the kids aren't really prepared to go out there and play good ball. Well, he is, but
Awesome.
you gotta coach like 25, 30 kids. And so I said, you know what, after seeing a year of this, I'm going to jump back into this. So
Good.
my schedule was working for that. But then when Amazon said, hey, we're going to put you back on night shift in March, I kind of let my boss know, hey, I'd love to be able to coach my team or whatever, coach my kids. And at the end of the day, they were like, nah, like we need you to do this. And so again, just being transparent, I told my boss, like, well, I'm gonna look for other opportunities that work for my home schedule. And so Fanatics, seems to work better. No ill will or anything towards Amazon. Like they do what they do. They're amazing at it. Anybody that's in the e-commerce world is going to look to Amazon for kind of like, how do they do things? Which I think helped me get hired.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no ill will. It's just that, the way that they do things and the way that I want to do things started to conflict. And I needed to do something different to be there for my family. So
Amazon's not like the only one that does that. There's just a lot of companies that do that. That always on call now type of culture.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they do, right? So every minute matters, every second matters. In that type of business.
In that world, for sure. Like fast decision making, like being able to pivot and change quickly.
Yeah.
And so
again, one of my old
my
mentors used to say, "It's a young man's game." And Amazon's one of those companies. Like it's a young man's game.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say that.
Cool.
Yeah, man. So that's kind of where we are now. I've coached, and I hadn't coached since I think the last season I coached was 2019. I think because COVID was 2020. So I've been on the sideline, but like Drexel and alluded to, like I'm constantly like, oh, what's the latest in football? Okay, RPOs. Like let me look some of that stuff up. My latest is air raid. So the teams that I'm kind of coaching for out here run the air raid. So I'm like deep diving air raid. Okay, what's the hoopla all about? And then the leadership piece, I have not really been able to kind of incorporate as much reading of leadership and kind of studying as I have in the past. 4 kids, 1.5, was the youngest. So my hands have been full with that. But always, I think what I learned the most from is conversations with people. And it's what like the guys mentioned, man, it's what I just love to do. Regardless, if I'm in Costco and I like bump into somebody, like I might stop and have a 10, 15 minute conversation. I bumped into this lady one time and she gave me this like 10-minute class on Tuscan melons. And so like, I'm like, oh snap, like they look like cantaloupes. They're called Tuscan melons. And she talked me through everything. And I was like, okay, cool, let's try them. So we tried them, loved them. I haven't seen them since, but just share that story because it's like, I just love people, man. I just love learning from people from different cultures, just kind of learning like their experience. And I think it helps inform, my perspectives on a lot of different things. And whether it's politics or whatever, being exposed to and learning from all different types of people, I think gives you a well-rounded perspective because, you could be missing a perspective that would inform, like, it's tough. It's hard to like, kind of blame people if they just haven't been exposed to certain perspectives or certain people's situations. And then it's like, all you know is what you know. And that's kind of why I like to venture out and like get to know people from different backgrounds. Just for me personally, because it just helps me have that kind of a more well-rounded perspective on things.
ShamWow. I mean, I definitely value that a lot more now than I have in the past. Like if you go back to some of my earlier episodes and to some of the stuff I'm talking about now, like it's totally different.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like I'm trying to get a blitz on that. Like, all right, get all the perspectives I can on certain things to just kind of, like you were mentioned about earlier, you're not learning, you're dying. So, really good stuff. Man. Let's take you back to the Naval Academy. I like to to ask this question is, do you have a good or a favorite coach memory? Maybe someone that was like influential to you during that time, or just something that was funny?
I think one of the things that who stands out is Mr. G. Do you remember Mr. G?
Yep, he wasn't there the entire time I was there.
Yeah,
I think he retired. But
I think he retired. Yeah, Mr. G of all people. I just loved conversations with Mr. G. I think he was similar, kindred spirit. He always knew where people were from. He always kind of knew something that would spark your interest. And I just remember being late sometimes to practice. You coming from class or all the way across campus, and you're trying to get dressed, man. And I'm talking about you're trying to get dressed, right?
Yeah, you're scarfing down the food as you're moving to get dressed. Yeah.
And Mr. G was sit.
For the group that doesn't know, Mr. G took care of that locker room.
Yes, right? He did. He did. Yeah. Took care of the locker room. And he wasn't a coach. He didn't make any, decisions on who was playing or anything. But I just loved talking to him. But I just remember several times, you're trying to get dressed, man. You're trying to hurry so you're not late for practice. And Mr. G is going to have a conversation with you, man. He is going to have a conversation. But as far as the coaches, I just, man, I have so much respect for them. I learned so much from them. Coach Jones recruited me. He was amazing. He came out to Vegas, was it last year? And we had breakfast together and just kind of, reminisced on good old times. And Coach Jasper and I stayed in contact. We text each other every now and then. I haven't heard from Coach Green, but man, I just remember Coach Green would tell us in the film room, hey, this is what they're going to do in this situation. And there were times where it seemed like the play started, he would stop, go move a defender where the ball's going to go, and then press play again, and then the ball will go right. I remember J-Mac getting
the keys, the tendencies, yep.
Yeah, man, he was so good at that. And just how they ran their rooms, the meeting rooms, how Coach Nehemiah and Coach Johnson, the way they led the program. And obviously what that stands out to me because, following that, I had an opportunity to go coach, and obviously not on the same level. But, standing in a room with, 60-some, 70-some football players, and you're the one commanding the room. So thinking back, how did Coach Johnson do this? How did Coach Nehemiah do it? And I tell anybody that I talk to that says what's your experience in football? Look, man, I'm blessed. I was able to learn from, watch and study and play for what I would consider some of the best coaches in college football. And I think if you say Navy football, or if you say Ken Niumatalolo or Paul Johnson or Ivan Jasper or Buddy Green, and most, if not all, college football circles, they're going to recognize that these guys are some amazing coaches. And so
it takes a special coach to coach at Navy, especially to be a winning coach.
Yeah, for sure.
With that
for
group. Sure. It's like with this whole NIL thing, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm thinking, okay, Navy has no NIL type of the team stays together. That's the positive they have right now. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But maybe it doesn't attract talent, but is that who we really want?
Exactly.
The ones that super care about all that. He did get a whole bunch of Johnny Manziels, even though he was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Coach Saban, Nick Saban just retired, and I was reading up or seeing kind of what his thoughts were. And I guess after their last bowl game, he had his interview with all the players. And what frustrated him is instead of them kind of thinking, okay, what do we need to do with the pieces that we have returning to get back to this point? I guess a lot of them were asking about NIL money. And for him, that was enough to say, hey, look, man, things have changed so much that I need to get out of this. Now, I think that's a fine line because, for forever, universities have been making money off of these players that, as you go through a lot to be a college student athlete. I know a lot of people say, well, you're getting a scholarship, you're getting a free education. But if you put a dollar amount on what they're doing, the stadiums being filled, they're not being filled to pay, you know what I mean? Like they're bringing,
Yeah.
so it's a really delicate balance. And I don't necessarily have a super strong stance on it right now because I haven't researched and read enough. But just surface level, it seems like, there's some balance that's needed between compensating players for what they actually bring in. But then, managing it in a way that it doesn't create the situation where you're playing for Alabama, right? And you just fell one game short of winning the championship, but your biggest concern is, how much money am I going to make next year?
What about me?
Yeah.
And
so
I'd read something about that too, and it's what Saban says was like, it's not going to work for me or something like that. That we bring kids here, we bring young men here to grow and develop them. And it's kind of, turn, the environment that worked before may no longer work with the same style, right? But what is that new style? I don't know. If that whole environment changed like that. So what's the win-win there? I don't know. We need to go to some coaching clinics to figure that one out, I guess.
Yeah, seriously, man. Seriously. It's like it's like, coaching an NFL team at this point where, you have to throw in the factor of how much money they're making and are other guys upset about the money, and definitely probably not that environment.
You have a whole bunch of college coaches going into the NFL, and some of the NFL coaches be like, okay, I think I can make this thing work, move it down to college or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Back to leading Marines, that whole Marine Corps experience and advising the A&P, like how'd that go? Any fun stories out of that, like a key takeaway from that deployment?
Yeah.
It may have not been leading Marines so much, even though you were a small crew of Marines. But
I loved it. It was an awesome time. When we got there to Lashkargah, which I think I want to say like the history there, it was built up. I think maybe Russia or it was I guess one of the more built up cities in Afghanistan, from what I understood. But we were advising, but they didn't. Our outpost was not complete yet, so the CVs were working on it. So we stayed on a British base for, I want to say, a couple of weeks to a month, and then we moved down to our own base, and it was cool because we had an opportunity to kind of build it up however we wanted to. So I had an amazing Staff Sergeant Kenny, just a super, super intelligent go-getter. And we just started to build it up with the MWR, the weight room. Like, we made it. We started calling it Las Vegas. But
and you're living in Las Vegas today.
Yeah, but man, it was a really cool deployment. We just learned a lot. Really kind of living with the Afghans. So obviously our base was there was some separation, but pretty much every day we were on their side of the outpost, just helping them with their logistics, man, and learning a lot. We set up like volleyball tournaments with them and stuff. We worked with the British a lot. Like that was cool because they were in our area. But yeah, spent the year there. Corey Johnson, we were on the same. He was on a small team as well, and so it was really. Is that a special guest right there?
Yeah, I pulled in a special guest.
Special guest. Yeah, man. Okay, pulling out all the stops. I see. Yeah.
Hey, I did it a couple times. I was like, that was fun. I figured it'd be fun.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, look, man. Hey, Drexel. You're amazing, man. I don't know how you have, like, I got 4 over here. I'm trying to squeeze in time. My man got 10, got a newborn. He just popped on, like, with a smile on his face, too. Okay.
Look, yeah. Man, when it's for Joe Taylor, man, you gotta
man.
Bring it, man. You gotta bring it.
Come on, man.
How's my sound? Am I messing up? What's up? We good?
Sounds good to me.
You're good. No, I was just gonna say I played your memory section voiceover, just like I did previously.
Oh, did you play that for Joe?
Yeah, I played it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, man. I do. Made me feel all tingly,
Yeah, it's the truth, man. It's the truth.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate it.
we were going through his, Afghan deployment, and some key takeaways he had from that.
That's when Joe got swole, man.
That's when he got
Oh,
swole.
yeah.
We call it Las Vegas.
Yeah, man. I think other than when I switched from quarterback to defensive back, I swear I think that time in Afghanistan was when I was like in the best shape of my life.
Yep.
Because it's pretty much like you do your job, you know what I mean? You work out. That's what you do. You stay and watch, you go on a couple convoys, go over to the Afghans, kind of talk to them through their logistics, help them out, and then you go work out, man. And I was working out probably twice a day, trying to be like pretty much me and one of my gunnies just eating like rice and chicken and V8 juice, drinking V8. And we were just getting it in, man. It was good. It was really good. I look back at those pictures like, oh my God, like what happened?
Yeah, I got you. I'm about to try and make a blitz on that, try to get back to something like that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Next question. So this is going to be fun. Perfect time that Drex joined in because he'd mentioned, ask him more about the connection genuinely with other people, the people person thing. You've been described as someone who connects genuinely with others, regardless of differentiating views. How do you navigate those conversations when opinions clash? Your secret to maintaining respect and empathy through those discussions.
Yeah. Interesting. I think I saw a graphic, was a few days ago, and it was just kind of it was like a sponge on one side, and I honestly forget what the other side was, but it was like when you listen to respond and then nothing was being absorbed, and it was like when you listen to understand. And so I try to like not necessarily remove, but understand that if I'm talking with someone about something that is kind of a sensitive topic or kind of a controversial topic, it's like, let me put my emotional response on pause so that I can hear and process what they're saying. And then most times I'm more interested in how someone arrived at that conclusion. I'm more interested in that than their conclusion, if that makes sense. Because then I can kind of get down to the root of who they are, why they have arrived at this conclusion, and it turns it less about less about the kind of the destination and more about their journey. So then I get curious, like, oh, like, this happened. Have you ever thought about that? And I think I generally try to approach those things with the question responses versus like, oh, this is what I think, unless asked. And then I try to be honest too. Like even if I know my opinion is going to be different, I try to, in the spirit of kind of learning people, I try to, okay, how can I share this with this person without triggering them, but also staying true to what I believe, or kind of whatever the conversation is about. And so I think just like listening to understand, being interested in kind of the why necessarily, not just the conclusion. I think it just kind of helps me really it's all kind of a journey of getting to know the person versus like just getting to know what they believe about, fill in the blank of whatever controversial topic is out there.
Gotcha. Good stuff.
No lies told.
What?
I feel like let me add.
Do it.
I'm on here to hype.
That's why I got you on here. I don't like talking.
Look. It took me like, I'm 38, so it's taken me 38 years to like learn how to feel my feelings, and I feel like my man Joe.
Hey,
he's been on the game for a long time, and I'm just testament to him. We've been talking about all sorts of controversial things, and
there's a lot of it out there right now, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I've seen him and heard him like, oh, this is controversial. Let me sit with it. Let me feel it, and then I'm gonna come back with something like he said. I want to learn how they're processing, so I love it, man. It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. Empathetic attunement. Wrote this down. Being able to understand emotions and then act.
Which I feel like is a manhood kind of like, if you're gonna, I don't, because they always talk about toxic masculinity, but I don't know if anyone's defined masculinity. But I feel like feeling your feelings, and like that quote, understanding your feelings should be a part of that. And I feel like I don't know too many guys who are, you know.
Yeah. Well, I try to tell I have one of my sons. He's listening. He's 10, right? So when he feels these strong emotions, um, he acts a little too quickly. So here's kind of what I do and what I advise him to do. Anytime I feel like a very strong emotional response, like I immediately kind of like, why do I feel this way? You know what I mean? Like, not let me go do something because I feel a certain way. Why do I feel this way? Why is this so triggering to me? And, sometimes it comes down to something as simple as, hey man, you haven't been sleeping good the last 2 nights. You're not actually disturbed by whatever this is. You're tired. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yep.
like, you're hungry. You know what I mean? And then there are times where it takes me back to maybe something that happened in my childhood. And so it becomes less about what maybe someone has done to me or what they've said to me or how they've made me, it becomes less about that. And it becomes more of like self-awareness. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like, why, like, okay, cool. I know now that this triggered me because back in the day, like this happened and that, I still haven't really addressed that part. You know what I mean? So it becomes like, now I'm not mad at that person. Like, it's almost like, I'm almost thankful that they kind of unveiled or revealed that to me. And so it kind of helps me maintain relationships because if somebody does something or shares something, now obviously I have boundaries. I think Jackson, we've talked through some of those things too. But for the most part, it just helps me navigate those kind of sensitive topics, or if someone does something or says something that offends me, when I kind of turn it back into me, like, why do I feel this way? Like, what trigger, it just kind of helps redirect that energy a little bit. And so I kind of share that with my son. Hey, when you feel that super strong emotional response, take a second, pause, pause and kind of consider why.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Especially, I'm gonna shut up here, but knowing
No, go for
your
it.
Keep going.
situation, coming from a small town where you're a big. I'm gonna say you're a big fish. You don't have to own it if you don't want, but you're a big fish, small town, and you know that comes with its own dynamics. You're in the fishbowl, so everybody sees you and is evaluating everything you do. Mixed marriage, so that comes with its dynamics. I don't know if we got into like some of the, church dynamic that was when we were, kind of back at the academy for the second time. And maybe even church hurt, if we can call it that, during the George Floyd time frame. So there's just a lot of, and then the football itself, how you switched positions so many times. I mean, I'm honestly in awe of that. I just don't think I would have had the emotional capacity to have handled it. To see you doing it, just a testament to the
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Appreciate it. Yeah.
I also think that emotional response is something that also got a lot of us to Navy. Just beating it up. It's, get up, work hard, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That trigger transition is different for everybody. For you, it sounds like it happened a little bit earlier than most, but man, that's how I live a lot of my life still. I'm trying to like pull that back at times, is like, man, I am like super, emotional with this thing because I believe in it. If you don't, if you stand for nothing, you fall for anything.
Yeah.
Right. So what is that right thing? And people, I think it starts there on almost every problem.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. I would.
Is that my girl, Malia?
Yeah. No, that's Micah.
Oh.
It's funny. She's having a hard time, and the other three, they're just in their own world. They
don't even notice.
Yeah. Maybe she could go outside. See if she wants to go outside. Yeah. So yeah, I think like. Sorry.
All good. Part of the journey.
Yeah, man. So it's just like you said. The end of it is people, and I think sometimes we get so caught up in what we believe and what we think is right and what we think is wrong. And and Drexel knows this, I don't say that to say there is no right or wrong. Like, I think there is, but I think exploring people a little bit more will help us understand that, like, people's gauges of what is right and wrong might be different because of their life. Try to pick her up. Oh,
See,
okay, try to pick her
he's
up.
handling emotions right now. That's why he's
Yeah.
on the
Oh,
podcast,
dude,
man.
Doing it well.
dude. Yeah. So that's been. I mean, that's been part of it. To be perfectly transparent, it's been part of it. I don't think and I credit my wife for this. Like, I was raised in, when you respond in a way that's not not how I want you to respond, you're gonna get that butt whoop. Like, that's how I was raised. And I think
Shame out.
I was, yeah, but my wife has kind of challenged me to, like, let's peel back the layers a little bit. Like, why is she crying right now? Why is she not listening? And let's explore that before we get too emotionally charged and then go to the fussing or the raising voice. Like, let's explore, let's help them navigate their feelings. And especially with the little ones, we've kind of discovered, like, she's frustrated and she wants to tell us what's wrong with her right now, but she can't communicate it. So, like, instead of me getting frustrated with her, let me try to figure out kind of what she needs. And I wasn't has not been me. JJ's just turned 13. I would say most of his life up to this point has been the other way. And over the last probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, have we started to kind of discover, even with him being 13, okay, he's a little quieter today than normal, like, or he's not listening quite as well as he normally does. And instead of kind of having that frustration response, let's kind of, like, let's pull him aside and talk to him. Let's ask him some questions. Let's observe and kind of see what's going on with him. And so I credit my wife a lot for that, man. She challenged me, and it's been good. I've been open to the challenge, and it's been good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yes, sir.
I would say my parenting's improved because of Joe as well, on this aspect, especially. And this, I mean, I feel like this is somewhat controversial, but how you discipline your kids, there's such a range of perspectives out there. And I think me and Joe had similar styles, for the first couple of kids, but just seeing his walk with his kids and then, me kind of coming, like, expressing all my thoughts, strengths and weaknesses of all different styles. I'm kind of, like, leaning more towards Joe's style, of kind of that emotional intuitiveness for your kids, and I think it's helping us all be healthier, in the King family. So thanks, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quality of
man.
interactions. I mean, the mutual investment. It's not just a like on Facebook. It's having those quality connections. It's very powerful.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
we were talking about earlier on, you were talking about the things that you took away from different coaches and how you're coaching now. Hey, I'll take a piece from this coach, a piece from that coach, and, make it my own. That's powerful stuff right there, brother. So,
Yes, sir.
on that, do you have a favorite mentor?
Favorite mentor. I had a couple different people I would consider in that mentor space. I think Drexel, Keitrick, one of our other friends, GP. I would say we're kind of like peer mentors in a way. Like, man, anything that I'm like that's like working in my mind, my heart, like, I just share with those guys. And we use the Marco Polo app, and I'm sure they see how long my polos are sometimes. They're like, oh my god, but they hang in there with me, and they just give me sound advice, man, wise counsel. My old high school coach, we went from him being my coach when I was in the ninth grade, to kind of being, when I got back to coaching there with him, it was so weird. I couldn't call him by his first name. It was always coach. It was this, like, this respect, this reverence for him. And we've gotten to the point now where, I could just call him on the phone. Hey, Matt, what's up, man? And, we just kind of sit back and talk and have a beer or something together when we see each other. But he's just been an amazing mentor. My wife and I laugh all the time because I'll do something or I'll say something or have some mannerism, and I think back, like, where did that come from? And it came from him. And it's cool because, like, we could not have had more different. The only thing I think that's similar in our backgrounds is that we're from the same area. But as far as demographics, ethnicity, kind of how we were raised, pretty different, and he's had such a huge influence on my life. He and I think, is really when I honed in on starting to be able to have conversations with a different type of person about anything. So he and I, when I was teaching, I would stop by his office on my off periods, and whatever the topic was, man, like you throw out controversial topic that the average two different Americans could not discuss without it getting heated, and we were discussing it. And we were discussing it from our perspectives, and I was learning from his perspective, and he was learning from mine. And it was just a very, very beautiful thing. Now, obviously, our prior relationship kind of set the foundation for us to be able to do that. But yeah, Mac Lewis definitely one of my favorite mentors. I have a boss that was at Amazon. As far as like the kind of professional world, I would consider him. His name's Steven Selby. I would consider him a mentor. And it's just a thing I try to do is like look at people and say, okay, cool. Like I try to learn from everybody, but I'm gonna learn a little bit more from that person. You know what I mean? From these people, I'm gonna share more with them to see what their perspective is on whatever. And so yeah, I would say between Drexel and those guys, Keetrick, Mac Lewis, Steven Selby, like some of those guys right now, I would say are definitely the more powerful, more influential mentors in my life.
Awesome, good sounding boards. Let's see, a couple more. The whole coaching thing. No, I know it's a passion.
Yeah.
Is there anything like within your career that during coaching that kind of reaffirmed that? Like, boom, this is it. This is where I got to be. This is what I like doing. Is there an event that happened, or is it just an accumulation?
Yeah, it's just everything. Just the success. I mean, and when I say success, like I'm not talking wins and losses. I mean, I know that's what coaching, what you're judged at higher levels. But for me, seeing the amount of kids that were going down one path, and now when I contact them, they're doing really well. Those are wins. That's the important part to me. I have a kid. Me and this kid butt heads so much, man. It's so crazy. But we still talk to each other every day. And
Those are the fun ones.
just about every day. In fact, I got to tell you this story. Can I tell you this story?
Do it. Yeah.
His name is JJ McNeil. Now this kid is like 6'2", 6'3". At the time he was probably 180. He's high school. Play receiver, play safety. I mean, dude, his hands were like huge. He catch the ball, he could run good. Like he was the man. And I had this rule: if a teacher comes to me, like it's no questions, you're gonna run, because even if you didn't do what they said, you didn't manage the perception. Oh no, actually, this one was different. He was late to practice, so he was still getting dressed while he was in the line. So I'm like, hey, you were late. You got to run. And so I had a coach that would kind of supervise the running after practice. And so he's like, Coach, I wasn't late. And I'm like, you were in line, but you weren't ready, right? If the ball snapped and it was time to do a play, like you would still be putting on your shoulder pads. So you were not on time, right? So anyway, we go back and forth. I'm like, hey, look, I'm not going to argue with you. You can do what you're supposed to do after practice, or you can turn your stuff in when you go to the locker room. And I walk away. So I think all the kids, and there was this hill that I made them run for like accountability. So I think what I heard is all the kids pretty much dragged him up this hill, like however many times they needed to drag, because they loved him. Like they loved him. He was an amazing football player and a pretty good kid, but we just always butt heads. Yeah, we got you. So it was cool to see as a team, right? Like they came together like that. Well, this kid ended up going to UVA Wise, Division II, transferred to Bowie State, and he just got invited to the Ravens Pro Day in Maryland.
Sweet.
And so he's, and his background, man, if I told you his background, we'd all be crying tears in here. You know what I mean? Like kind of the thing, the adversity that he's had to go through. And then he has a younger brother.
Right. 2 more questions. What's your current biggest
All right, my bad.
struggle?
My bad.
I lost your audio, so sorry if I butt in. Yeah, current struggle today.
No, you're good. You're good, brother. Well, I just started a new job at Fanatics. Like anytime you start something new, learning kind of the formal and informal of the job, just balancing husband, father, job, jump back into coaching, offensive coordinator for my son's 10U football team. So just balancing, I think balance is key. And just so balancing all of those things would probably be what I would say is the number one thing right now.
Yeah. especially getting older. I think I used to sacrifice sleep for a lot of things, but you can't do that as much anymore. At
No,
least for
no,
me.
that's true, man. It's true. I'm feeling it.
I see
Absolutely.
Drex out there running with his kids in the mornings and stuff, and the
Oh
voicemail
yeah.
or the voiceover that he sent, he's like walking somewhere while he's talking, and then he gets inside the door, the way you can
He's
hear it. He's on the move.
he's a machine. He's a machine, man. He's always been a machine.
He's got
That
them
dude's always
genetics,
been a machine. Yeah,
no
always.
doubt.
His ears have muscles, man.
That's a good one. I'll remember that one.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
I feel like
Last
challenges too maybe is you know, I feel like you've been out of the coaching game for a little bit, made some hard decisions, and being away from it has been a big challenge because I think anybody who knows you knows that's your purpose. But to see you put family first, I think speaks volumes, and then to try now to figure out a way to get back in it, even if it's just little league or whatever. I feel
Yeah.
like has been a good challenge that I've seen you kind of wrestling with of late.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Drexel knows I've been just desperate to get back into coaching. Just because I love the platform, what it does, for young men, young women, whoever comes out for the team. And so I've missed it. I've missed kind of that preparation. I've missed running practices. I've missed kind of the energy that happens when you're coaching. And so I'm back in it, man. Like this morning, we had a quarterback session. Went from that to my son had a camp with the Raiders. And so yeah, it's been good. But to Drexel's point, kind of leading up to that, trying to figure out how can I get back into it, was definitely a battle there for sure.
You're one of those always hungry kind of guys, so not alone in that. What's your price of admission?
Price of admission, man. I think first you got to know what you're trying to what are you trying to gain admission to? You know what I mean? And then what does it take? And so everybody's price of admission will be different. I think based on whatever you're trying to do. For me, it's just be the best person I can be, right? Be the best husband I can be the best father I can be the best fanatics manager I can be the best coach I can be. And so it's putting in that time and that effort to be a constant learner, you know what I mean? To learn people, to learn the way whatever the operation is works, to learn the strategy. So just putting in that time to learn, loving on people, holding people accountable, supporting them, and whatever they need to succeed. So I'm not sure if that fits the traditional answer, but yeah, that's it.
There is no traditional answer. That's what's fun about it. So good
Yes,
stuff.
sir.
Anything else you want to spit to maybe some of the other brothers, or before we close this thing out?
No, man, just appreciate you. Appreciate what you're doing here. It's really cool. Cause when somebody say Drexel King, man, everybody has like, oh, he got that interception against Pitt. And they say Keetrick Buffin, it's like, oh yeah, he led the nation in interceptions at one time. And when somebody say Joe Taylor, it's like crickets. Who is that?
Well, stop it. I like to get all perspectives, right?
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. That's what.
And this gives me energy. This gives me energy. So.
Good, man. Good. And that's what I say. I appreciate it. I don't think anybody is such. I think one time while I was at Navy, maybe the Gazette, Washington, somebody did a story on Joe Taylor and Joey Taylor. And like, that was it. That's all I ever got. So it's funny. But no, I appreciate the opportunity for sure. And love what you're doing, man. And thanks to Drexel for, 10 kids, just amazing husband, amazing father. And he makes the time to jump on with a guest appearance. So appreciate both of y'all.
Awesome. And make sure to thank Mel tonight.
One question for Tony here. You've been doing a lot of these. What's the price of admission, man? You know what I mean?
I gotta save it. I gotta save it. I think I've said, someone asked me that once, and I was like, it's beautiful. It really is.
Yeah.
Because it's always a little bit changing.
Yeah.
I'll do an episode one day.
Hey. You should.
Yeah, I got. There's one of the guys. So I'm trying to also kind of wrap in supply chain folks and like Amazon and like that type of person, because I think there's a lot of people in that realm that have similar mindsets and think the same way. And one of those guys that I used to work with, great people leader, one of my mentors when I was in that. I think he and I will do one day. So that's the plan. But hey, plans change, so we'll see what happens.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all, man, for sure.
Great seeing you guys. Take care.
You too, brother. All right.
Stay on. Oh, all right. Chuck's gonna have to log back on.